right. Welcome, everyone, to an episode of Sylvester Stallone Fan Podcast Network episode. I am Ryan, and with me, as always, for this special occasion is Craig and Doug. I'm Ryan of Going the Distance, the Rocky series and Creed podcast.
I'm Craig Cohen, and I'm part of the Sylvester Stallone Fan Podcast Network, and I am the host of the occasional Slycast podcast.
Occasional. Biannually.
I think that's being generous.
But we will say that when Craig drops an episode, it puts our shows to shame.
That is for sure.
That's very kind of you.
For sure. Well, I'm Doug, and I'm one of the hosts of Rocky Minute, where we cover the Rocky movies 1 minute at a time. I got nerve to make fun of you, Craig.
I was just going to say, where's Rocky 3, buddy?
Yeah. I'm going to retract my previous statement. We have 2 seasons finished. We're working on season 3. Season 3 has been my Everest, but
it's been your Judge Dredd.
It's been my Judge Dredd. That's the new standard for an unreachable task.
Today we're covering Backtrace, but before we say anything about the movie, before we get into the movie, because I know once that train starts going, it's going to be a unstoppable force. But before we get into this, talk a little bit of Rocky talk. We've talked about it on the Going the Distance podcast a little bit, but I'd love to hear, Craig and Doug, your thoughts on the footage that we've seen so far of what Sly seems to be working on regarding the director's cut of Rocky 4. And what are your hopes and what's your desire? What's your overall feeling regarding this upcoming director's cut that's supposed to be out from Sly, he said, this Thanksgiving?
The anniversary, the 35th anniversary of the film. Well, the funniest thing is calling it a director's cut, because a director's cut, at least in my understanding, implies that it was Sly's first cut of the movie before he showed it to the studio and made whatever changes they requested. So this is more like a recut, a revisit, 35th anniversary director's cut. I don't know. It seems disingenuous to call it a director's cut, because that implies it's the film that Sly had in mind in 1985, which we know isn't true.
You're right about the title director. What would you title it then?
35th anniversary cut or
Redux, like Apocalypse?
Redux, yeah. I mean, they did that with Apocalypse Now. Final cut, which Oliver Stone's done, Ridley Scott's done.
Definitive cut.
You think of all the things that Sly has at his disposal that he could spend time working on. And now, granted, I do appreciate the fact that this is his film. He's not, I even talked about, hey, let's get Rocky 5 out there. Let's get Avildsen's cut out there. Well, unfortunately, Avildsen's no longer with us. But we know what his cut was. We have the bootlegs.
Right.
So I at least appreciate that Stallone isn't screwing with somebody else's film. But at the same time, I wonder how much of this is a direct result of Creed 2 and his experiences on Creed 2, because all of a sudden he wants to add more weight and gravity and emotional impact to Rocky 4, which it was never that kind of film, even though we do deal with Apollo dying. It's not an emotional film. I mean, it's sad to see Apollo die, but...
Was it?
Well, for Carl Weathers, I'm sure it was. But at the same time, I haven't watched any of the footage yet. I want to kind of see it as its finished product, because as you saw on the Facebook group and on Twitter, I was really, really disappointed to see that he's getting rid of Paulie's robot. And knowing the history of Paulie's robot, you did an interview with the guy that created Paulie's robot. We know why Paulie's robot's in that movie. Mm-hmm. For Sly to just like dispose of it so casually, it makes me wonder how they're going to work that movie. I mean, do they have footage without the robot from that birthday scene?
Speaking of the interview, it's Robert Dornick, the creator of Seiko, the robot, and the robot existed before the film, and that's it was actually Sly's mom saw it on Donahue or something, and of course she had a grandson with the condition of Sergei that he has, and she called Sly, says, look, this robot helps with kids with special needs. Maybe Sergei would like it. And that's how that relationship formed. And Robert Dornick did the voice work for Seiko the robot in the movie. That's his voice. And he did that voice during my interview, by the way. It's quite good. But,
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what's so offensive about that robot? It's a film that it's a product of the 80s.
I think Sly is doing all that he can to erase the memory of Sergei. Oh, well, I don't know, man. Sometimes I wonder.
I don't know if there even is a memory of him anymore in Sly's mind.
It's weird. I will say it's weird that it's never discussed.
Yeah, he went. What talk show was it that he said he got the robot idea from some pizza joint, a poster at a pizza joint?
It's so weird.
Come on,
weird.
man.
Robert Dornick's not a liar. Like maybe his version. No, his version's not wrong. I'm sorry to say, because that was even what came out in the day back when this first came out. I don't know. Interesting enough, in that interview with Robert Dornick, the creator, he mentioned that they filmed additional scenes that the producers of the show were cut out because they thought it might have been too. I'd say silly is a word, but a little bit too light on the feet of. But there was a lot of more comedy moments that. So when I heard about the director's cut, I actually honestly thought there'd be more robot. That they would actually have more of those interactions with Paulie and the robot, and it's the opposite, like you were saying, that it's cut out.
Yeah, I almost wonder, Ryan, if Stallone has false memories of that final cut. Who knows the last time he watched Rocky IV before he came up with the idea for this director's cut, but maybe he remembers that first cut, that director's cut, if you will, that's got all the silly robot shit in it.
Well, did either of you guys read the novelization from it?
Mike Kunda's cursing at me right now, but no.
But no, okay.
No, he's not. He doesn't listen to our show.
I didn't read the novelization, but I listened to like the audiobook rereading of it. There was a lot in there that was cut out. A lot.
Is there any dramatic moment you can think of that might translate well into film if it was filmed?
They got a lot into the background of Ivan Drago, but it was all narrative. So they're really probably not going to put that in there. There was a lot of Apollo training and like kind of phoning in his training, and Rocky's training him, and he's kind of getting upset with Apollo because Apollo's not taking it seriously.
What does that really do for the movie, though? Like,
I wish they will show the dance rehearsal footage. Like, that would be funny.
I'm pretty sure there was some more some stuff back at Mighty Mix too.
Okay.
You know, we find out what happened to Gazzo and his driver.
Oh, really?
Also was a narrative, but they said that Gazzo and his driver pissed off the wrong people and 2 in the back of the head. So
wow, that's pretty dark.
Yeah. So I mean, that again, it was a narrative. I don't know how they squeezed that in.
Well, Craig, I think you touched a little bit of what we do know about the narrative being not very dramatic in the Rocky IV, and I think that's probably what Sly is doing. Is he's taking out the robot, taking out anything that indicates a little bit of too much silliness or 80s silliness, because there are a couple moments in Rocky IV that are very dramatic and very cool and almost gritty, and I think maybe that's what he's going for, i.e., the run up the mountain when he yells Drago. That's one of the most powerful moments in all of Rocky franchise. I've seen like just the manhood. I don't know how to word it. Just the champion of Rocky personified on top of that mountain yelling Drago. I mean, that Stallone yell that he's so good at.
Even with the mirror where he's peeling the pictures off the mirror as he goes. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of heavy stuff in that movie. We've said it a million times on this show. You know, you always give Sly the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
This one for me has been a real head scratcher. Sort of like Backtrace.
Okay.
Speaking of that,
who chose that movie, by the way?
This movie was up for a poll. Now, granted, we kind of purposefully put 3, maybe what we felt were weaker, I'm being generous here, weaker films of Stallone's career, maybe less known films, less viewed films. We had this one, Backtrace versus Reach Me. And what was the third choice?
Whatever Doug chose, right?
Yeah, I don't even remember what it was. Some other piece of shit.
So, Backtrace, I think, marks our most recent review of a Stallone film.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, spoiler alert, I think we're going to spend more time discussing the movie Backtrace than the people did discussing the creation and the writing process of this film.
And filming.
Yeah, so let's
12 days.
Stop.
I'm sorry.
No. Well, before, let's get into the specs a little bit. Sure, why not? So the film, like Doug just said, took 12 days of filming. What does that tell you? When you hear?
I was on set for a day of it.
Yeah, he was at 2 locations, right? 3. The car, the crime scene, I guess, which could have easily been filmed just around the corner of the cement warehouse. Sorry. So there was the police station scene, and then there was, of course, the drive in the car back to the cement warehouse. Like we do with every movie, let's talk about its specs. In North America, it made 0.
Well, it didn't come out, right? I mean, it was a straight to Blu-ray or DVD.
Sorry, North America. Well, North America had a 0 at box office, but for inflation. But then worldwide, it did make $450,000 in select theaters worldwide. So the box office draw of Stallone is very, very strong still. $500,000.
$500,000 worldwide. That's.
Sorry,
I think the three of us could put out a movie and do that kind of business worldwide.
As cohesive as this one.
Let's talk about the thought process of how did this happen? How did this director get Sly to be in this film, even if it was for a 2-day shoot?
This is the most frustrating thing about Sly. And again, we've talked about this on Slycast. We've talked about it on our joint shows, is just the squandered opportunities that Sly has. This was this came out after Creed, but before Creed 2,
this
right?
Was 2018. So Creed 2 came out in 2018 as well.
Yeah. After Creed, you'd think Golden Globe, nomination. Did he win that Golden Globe?
Yes.
I think he did.
Yeah. Oscar nomination. Guy should be able to write his ticket in Hollywood. He must have owed the guy a favor, right?
Sly's worth almost $500 million. The guy does not need to work another day. He can put on 500 pounds, never do a day of work in his life. 20 years ago, he could have stopped working. So
do you think Shooter McGavin called him up?
Well, this is the thing. Why? Why did he do this movie?
Or Matthew Modine?
Well, this film had a $6 million budget. Is that like the going rate for these straight-to-video?
I can't imagine that most straight-to-video movies have a budget over $10 million.
Yeah.
I did a couple of episodes with Sean on You Must Break This podcast, and the two that I did with him, actually, I don't know about the first one, but the second one was definitely $6 million. And I was like, wow, that's like right on the nose for the same one as this.
Well, a lot of those movies shoot in like Prague or Canada or Bulgaria. Yeah. This one was filmed in New Orleans, right?
Atlanta,
okay.
Sure.
Or Athens, Georgia, some like outside of Atlanta, not even in the city. But,
well, Atlanta gives those huge tax incentives. Jersey used to too, Doug, before Christie got stupid and them all away, and
wonderful.
The film industry left.
A wonderful.
But I don't know if you remember, Doug. There was a studio in Hoboken where they used to film TV shows, and they filmed the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind there.
Yeah, there's another one that was filmed there too. I can't remember. I can't think of it right now. But yeah,
like Jersey had like a legitimate film industry growing, and then, well, I don't want to get into it.
Okay. Well, okay. So honestly, why does
Ryan is such a polite Canadian?
Why?
He is.
Well, I might not be very polite talking about this film. We had a great review. Our last review was Nighthawks. Boy, that seems like freaking Gone with the Wind, Casablanca quality, Godfather quality compared to this. Why does Sly say, you know what? I've got nothing better to do on a Saturday, Sunday. I'm doing this. What's the point? Like, what is the point? Why mar any legacy? Like you're saying, he just did Creed and Creed 2. Even Rambo Last Blood was on the dock. Why is he like wasting his time? What is going on here?
Going back to Sean's show, Dolph Lundgren made all these straight-to-video movies because that was putting food on his table.
Yeah.
But like you said, Ryan, like he didn't need to do this. What goes through his mind?
Maybe Sly doesn't like spending time at home with his wife and his daughters. I mean,
Instagram would say differently.
Yeah, no kidding. All right.
The other interesting thing about this, too, is he didn't even seem that interested in it because we all know we've talked about Sly's height before. But in this movie, I think everybody in the movie is taller than him. There's even a scene where he's walking next to a woman and she's taller than him.
Yeah, he dialed it in. Like he literally
like he didn't in. Like he Bruce Willis it.
Okay, well, speaking of Bruce Willis, this director, what's his name? Brian Miller?
Sure.
Okay, well, I looked him up. Okay, well, I bring this up because let's just say his name is Brian Miller because it doesn't matter. He's a nobody.
Is it Ryan? It might no. Not
no,
Ryan.
It's Brian Miller, I believe. This is his thing. He does direct-to-video movies. There's a business. Look, I'm not. How should I say this? I'm not opposed to the idea that people do direct-to-video. This is kind of streaming, especially in COVID. You could almost argue, hey, direct-to-video might just video on demand. It might just be the way things are now.
Content's king.
Yeah.
Content's king.
Sure. This guy's directed about 7 to 8 movies in the last 5 years with Bruce Willis alone. So he's definitely has his finger on the pulse of A-list stars who are not doing A-list roles anymore. And so it's kind of sad to see Sly kind of like, oh, I'll try this out. I'll do this. But watching this film, I wondered, like, somebody still approached Sly, obviously his agent. I don't know quite how it works. His agent says, hey, this guy's worked with Bruce Willis. You know, he's done some decent, which he hasn't. If you look at the reviews, all of his movies have received horrible reviews online with critics, fans, just pure drudgery. But I wonder, was it just, hey, of the $6 million budget, hey, Sly, here's $1 million for 2 days' work? I mean, that could easily just be all it took.
Maybe, yeah. And he got to work with Shooter McGavin and Matthew Modine, who I felt more sorry for.
Who's Shooter McGavin? Is that the Christopher McDonald actor?
Yeah. The guy,
what role was that again?
That Adam Sandler movie. That was
Happy Gilmore.
Okay, that's right.
The whole time, every time he came on screen, I'm like, hey, it's Shooter McGavin. Beaver's father from the Leave It to Beaver movie.
Oh, right. Yeah. I recognized him once I saw him. One of those character actors is in a lot of things. Let's talk about the film. I went in blind. I didn't see a trailer as I usually do. I didn't see a trailer. One of our listeners, Seiko, speaking of Seiko the robot, Seiko, he messaged me seeing that we were doing Backtrace. He goes, "Oh, I've never heard of this film," he says. "Let me go check out the trailer." So he watched the trailer and he said, "Oh, they just tell the movie in the whole trailer, so I don't need to watch it now, and it looks terrible." And that was his response. So he said he's going to base whether or not to watch the movie based on our review on this episode.
And didn't Andy warn us about this movie probably in 2018 when it came out? That like it was a bait and switch, that it wasn't a Stallone movie.
Yeah, I heard that he wasn't in it that much. Maybe because I was expecting him to be in it for like 5 minutes. I was actually surprised. But for an hour and a half movie, if you want to talk about a cast movie of whether or not all these actors are horrible, by the way. But if
oh my goodness, it's oof.
It seemed like every 5 minutes it was about to break into a porn film. These actors all looked like scuzzy, greasy. This is what they do with their clothes on type acting. I mean that with no disrespect to the adult film industry people, but it is seen these guys could have easily been a part of what you'd see on the internet.
Yeah, but the other thing about it is Sly's character, you could take him out of the movie and the movie's no different.
Well, it's not written for Sly.
But I mean, that character, aside from the end, the character serves no purpose. He doesn't drive the story. It's almost like, imagine they're like, hey, we've got this footage of Sly being like a cop. What can we do with it? Oh, let's build a movie around it. It almost seems as absurd as that.
Hold on. You want to talk about absurd? You mentioned, sorry, we
the gates are open.
Sly is 72 years old in 2018. How is he still working as a cop? How is he not retired?
Maybe he's 60?
No, enough of this. No, he looks 72. Enough of this.
In New Jersey, police are forced into retirement at age 65.
I was going to ask you that, Doug. You could have argued at the start of this film, he could have been at his retirement age because it fast forwards 7 years later. So Sly's character, whose name is Sykes, by the way. Have you met anybody in your life with the last name? Hey, Sykes!
Sykes from Whitesnake.
Okay, fair enough.
Murder.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, how do you spell it?
Sykes.
Yeah, that's how John Sykes spells it.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. All right. Fair enough. I don't know why it just seemed like a funny name to me. How many detectives are there until the age of 72? At the age of 72 or even 65, is that normal to retire as a 65-year-old detective?
I mean, if you're a detective, maybe, because they have more longevity than beat cops.
Could he be a consultant?
He could be, or he can like retire and come back as like a civilian police director or something. But he's not. He's a detective. He is on duty at 72 years old. All right, you're 72. Let's say he got on when he was 25. That's almost a 50-year career.
Yeah.
And he's
like chief of police or something?
Yeah, and he's never made rank.
Police.
He's never made sergeant or lieutenant or captain or major or anything.
But he's a hell of a shot. So the movie opens with three gentlemen in a vehicle.
I saw the poster when I brought it up on, I think I watched it on Hulu. And I didn't even realize that was Matthew Modine on the poster. So when I see one of the guys was Matthew Modine, I was like, whoa, this is Matthew Modine, like Married to the Mob.
Full Metal Jacket. Yeah, he's great in that.
Yeah, Full Metal Jacket. I mean, like Stranger Things. He was in the first season of Stranger Things. Like, I mean, I'm like, whoa, Matthew Modine, we're cooking with grease here.
Can I give you my Matthew Modine impersonation for this film? This is where seeing this on camera is what it's all about, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, just say fragments. Fragments. I know this place. I know you. Fragments.
Wait, no. I know this place. I've been here before.
What are you seeing, Mac?
Fragments. All I see is fragments. I'm seeing fragments. Why do I know this place? Where are we?
You know, I was going to say that I liked Matthew Modine right up until that fragment scene. I thought he did a decent job first half.
And he was clearly the only actor that was actually attempting to do anything in this movie. Stallone wasn't. Shooter McGavin wasn't. All the porn actors weren't. I mean, the acting, and Ryan, I'm glad you pointed out, because it was atrocious. Like the one scene where Sly's talking to like the lady about amnesia, that's got to be the worst acting I've seen in a major movie in 10 years.
It's fairly catastrophic retrograde amnesia.
You think it was real, or do you think he was faking it?
I believe it was real. This brain imaging says it was real. Every neurological test we've ever done said it was real. Detective, this was the worst case I've seen. It took him 6 months to learn how to walk again and another 12 just to learn how to speak. A man's lucky to have survived.
Let me ask you something. If it wasn't an axe, how'd he get out of this place? Have you had any visitors lately?
I've been here 4 years, and other than police investigators and the occasional reporter, no one's come calling.
It's just a terrible movie, but it's almost bad enough to be funny. Almost. You know how like The Room, it's not supposed to be bad, but it's just a bad movie. It doesn't quite push the cult level of bad, but there's dialogue, for example. Well, let's just talk about it. So he's talking to the doctor. Oh no, let's go in chronological order, because there's people that have not seen this film and they're not going to watch this film after we talked about it, or they might watch it just to see how much of a train wreck it is. So the movie opens with 3 gentlemen in a vehicle who've just finished digging up something, because they say put some dirt on the shovel, which I guess is to indicate that if somebody looks at the shovels, we'll get to that they see that the shovels have been used to bury something. I don't know if you caught that at the very beginning. So they go to this meat place to give money over, and they've robbed a bank, right? And the people that have come to collect their share are like, well, where's our money? And they're like, no, there's 3 of us. There's 1 of you. We did all the dirty work robbing this bank. So we're only going to give you a quarter of what we did. There's 3 of us. We took whatever the amount was. It's $20 million.
Who the hell are you?
Never mind that. Where's the money? Here you go. Where's the rest of it?
We took our share. That's your cut.
Let's go. That wasn't the deal.
I know, Mac. Yeah, well, it is now.
That's got to be less than half.
You're damn right it's less than half. 20 million split 4 ways. 3 of us pulled the job, 5 million apiece. The rest is yours.
Any one of those bills could have been marked. How do you expect to launder it?
Let us worry about it.
Whoa, relax. Where's our money, asshole?
Easy, guys.
Where's the money?
Calm down, all right? We buried the money. You kill us, nobody gets anything.
Just calm down,
He's
everybody.
bluffing.
Just relax. This isn't the plan. You're right. It isn't part of the plan.
Now, I'm a little bit confused. Did they have 20 and they were going to give them a quarter of the 20, so they should only have 15? The number was very confusing about what they had and what they were going to give them.
I didn't think past the line. As soon as the line came out, I forgot it.
Okay. So they were double-crossed. The people that were helping them rob the bank, I guess they were the intel people, maybe the people that maybe... They didn't really explain how they helped. Did you catch how they helped them rob the bank? Okay, all right. So these 3 guys, though, they worked, as my understanding, they worked at the cement factory itself?
Well, one of them was a guard at the bank, right? Or
No.
he stole somebody's identity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The 3 people in the vehicle at the beginning, 2 of them got killed. Matthew Modine's character survived the shootout.
I thought they were guards. They helped him rob the bank.
Okay.
The newsreel that comes up next, that one of the dead guys wasn't a guard for the bank.
Law enforcement officials are following several leads in what authorities are calling one of the largest bank robberies in state history. Over $20 million was stolen from Central City Bank in the morning hours of Monday, April 8th. Ike Foster and John Truby died at the scene. The third subject, Donovan McDonald, remains in a coma following injuries sustained during the robbery. At the press conference earlier today, Captain Stover of Metropolitan Police Department released updated information regarding the alleged suspects.
Our major crimes unit is investigating multiple leads. Our preliminary results indicated that one of the suspects, John Truby, was employed by the security firm that was contracted at Central City Bank. We're still reviewing those findings with our partners in the FBI. We don't want to jump the gun until we have more definitive details. Next question.
Okay, so for our listeners, if you're tracking, okay, so 3 people were in the vehicle. If you're backtracing with us,
tracking.
2 guys got killed that robbed the bank. Matthew Modine's character got injured in the shootout. He was left there to die. He wasn't killed. The 2 bad guys that did the shooting got away, but they didn't have the money because the money was hidden. We'll get to where it was hidden later. And then Sylvester Stallone and the crew come to the crime scene, and it turns out that this guy goes into into an amnesic state for 7 years. So it goes 7 years later, we see Matthew Modine's character in a psychiatric prison ward, and he doesn't remember anything previous to the shootout. But he's in custody because he still committed the crime, but he doesn't remember doing the crime. So it's kind of an interesting, I guess you could say, it could have been an interesting philosophical discussion, but it never is. He's in the psychiatric prison ward. During the 7-year period, this robbery has just shocked the nation. It has become the major case for this city that they have been investigating for 7 years, and they have been going back to that. Okay, guys, they went to that cement factory apparently for months. They said months.
Remember that old cement factory you used to work at?
Yeah, we combed through that place for months. Didn't find a damn thing.
Maybe we weren't looking in the right place.
They went there for months and couldn't find the hidden money stuck in a pipe.
Yeah, $20 million is a lot of money.
And those bags were not big enough for $20 million.
No, not even close.
How many thousand single bills would that be for $20 million worth? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a mathematician.
200,000.
Yeah.
Another thing that they didn't really articulate, but they mentioned later on in the film, is he wasn't locked up because they thought he robbed the bank. He was locked up because they thought he shot those 2 guys. Because wasn't there a thing about like ballistic bullets that killed the guys wasn't matched to any weapons on scene?
That would just tell me that there was people involved in the shootout that weren't there anymore.
None of the weapons used at the crime scene matched the ballistics. Someone else had to be involved.
And they took their weapons with them.
Yeah. It wasn't even a choice in the police's mind.
So what they're saying is that there was a shootout. We got 3 bodies, 1 still surviving. They were able to track bullets from the 3 dead people to their weapons, but there was also rounds on the ground that didn't belong to the weapons left at the crime scene. So that would tell me personally that maybe there's people at the shootout that took the weapons with them, the survivors.
Mm-hmm. No, but they thought Mac killed those 2 guys.
We're 7 years ahead. Nothing has happened on the fact that we see Matthew Modine's character, McDonald is his name. It's now 7 years later. He seems to be a calm, rational type person. He's almost innocent. Like, I just don't remember it. People keep asking me questions, and I don't remember. We'll get to how he gets out of the psychiatric ward, prison ward. Stallone's character he's talking to the doctor who's been working with McDonald. He asks the doctor, apparently he's been there for years, because as mentioned, he's been going to visit him for years trying to get information. But he asks the doctor, do you think he's faking it?
It's a long con.
Well, not just that, but the fact that this investigating police officer, who apparently has been going to the hospital for the past 7 years.
It took him 7 years to ask that question.
Yeah, now you're asking the question, do you think he's faking it? Even in his police abilities, he should be able to come to some sort of conclusion that I'm being conned or not. And that this discussion with professional medical staff would easily have been discussed or figured out long before 7 years later.
No, that's an excellent point, and it shows the weakness of the script writing.
Which there's plenty. But that doctor, I mean, she was smoking. And a horrible actress.
Atrocious is the word you have to use. I mean,
which leads me to my.
Doesn't really cut it.
I've seen like high school drama productions where a 15-year-old kid's turned in a better performance.
He gets out of prison, this is how he gets out. This is the most complicated part of the movie. So he is having a medical exam of some sort. Oh, no, sorry. He has a visit. He gets a visitor. A visitor comes into the... Okay, that's right. So a visitor... Yeah. Not a visitor. An inmate sits at him at supper. So somebody he's never met before, and we as an audience member has not seen before, sits at the table. He looks like a greasy, he's got long hair, beard. Kind of looks like a creepy guy, like he's a molester of some sort, like he's in jail because he molested somebody. So he's sitting at the table with Modine's character. He's like, have we met before?
Hey, I'm Lucas. Just got in. Yeah, 72-hour psychiatric evaluation. It's voluntary.
Do I know you? You seem familiar.
No, you don't know me. But I know you.
How's that?
Read all about you. Saw all those news stories about you and that bank robbery.
Well, then you know more about it than I do.
Well, I know that you're not guilty. At least not for everything they're accusing you for. How long you been here?
7 years.
I bet you're missing life outside these walls. I'd bet even more that you're desperate to get out.
We're led to believe that the connection is he was in on the heist. He's part of the gang that helped operate. So now he's got into the inside of the prison to get him out so they can go find the money where it was hidden. Because the only surviving member who knows where the money is the one person with amnesia. He says, take this pill after we're done supper, and this pill will get you out of the hospital.
What's that?
What if I told you I can get you out of here?
I'd say you're crazy.
You mean to tell me after all this time you spent in here, you can't tell the difference between these nut jobs and me? Damn, I'm good.
How would you get me out of this place?
As much as I'd like to take credit for all this, I got some help.
Why are you doing this?
I got 20 million reasons.
If you read my case, you'd know that I don't have any memory of what happened to me before I was sent to this place.
Look, you want to get out of here? This is your chance. I'd say sleep on it, but I'm being discharged tonight, so you got to make a decision quick, because the clock is ticking. Trust me.
Why would I trust you?
You got any better options? Everything's gonna be all right.
That's basically the setup. And he says, I'm new here. I'm only here for 72 hours, and they're going to take me out. But then, even though in the same conversation he says that he's been discharged tonight, so he contradicts his own story. It was hard to not find the fault in the script. He tells Modine's character, I'm here for 72 hours. But then during the same conversation, he says, I'm being discharged tonight, anyways. So he takes the pill, and Modine's character starts getting sick. And then the next scene is him lying in the infirmary with a nurse and the doctor.
She takes him out of the facility in the trunk of her car. I mean, we don't see him leaving.
It's ridiculous. So the nurse, who now I figured out her age in real life, like what this is. So her name is Meadow Williams. During this movie, yeah. Are you talking about which one, the blonde hair one?
IMDb destroys her.
You could tell that she had plastic surgery. So I couldn't tell if she was an old-looking 30-year-old or a young-looking 60-year-old. So it was in between. She was 52 in the film. But it threw me off when something was revealed later because I was like, I can't tell her age and what the... Anyways, she says, she's the nurse. She says, there, you'll feel better.
Mac, how are you feeling?
Like I was poisoned.
The side effects will only last a few hours. Here, take this. It will help calm you down.
Cut to the next scene. The same nurse is leaving the prison, and we have the security guard. She's showing more security for somebody leaving the prison who works there.
You show me what's in your bag.
You done for the day?
Just finishing out the week.
Go ahead and sign this. I'm gonna have you open up that bag for me.
Certainly. Just returning these to county. Dr. Nichols signed off on it.
Let's get you to open up the back as well.
Okay, give me a second.
Let me just say that had the security officer done the same amount of security in 9/11, we'd have a different world history right now.
So, and Doug, I mean, I don't know where your experience cuts off here, but you being an officer.
Are you a police officer, Doug? Have you?
Yes. Check.
Wouldn't those security check like sort of happen as you're leaving the building itself?
Yeah. The building. Yeah. You have to walk through metal detectors. They scan you. They search your bags, your personal property before you even leave the building.
Yeah. It seems like by the time you're in your car, it's too late.
For the most part. Yeah.
We get the idea this is a very high security type prison. The amount of scrutiny that this security guard was giving an official worker there, a nurse no less, of like, let me check your bag. I've got to check your trunk. And the security guard behind the nurse was yelling, hey, let her through. Come on, we got to go here. They were working together, obviously. But we didn't even see how Matthew Modine's character got from the hospital bed to the trunk of the car. So we're led to believe that they were just able to arbitrarily walk through the hallways, or how did they mobilize this half intoxicated and how did they convince him to get into the trunk of the car? He has no memory of.
Why not just have him take the pill, and then the next shot is him waking up wherever they took him? It would have avoided us questioning the procedure that they used to get him out.
I just want our chat's lighten up a little bit. We've got a visitor in the chat room. My brother Ruben has piped in and chimed in.
Hey, Ruben.
Former, and hopefully one day he'll co-host again on the Going the Distance podcast. He's just been cutting and pasting some incredible reviews from IMDb. So if you go into the chat, you'll see those. But one that was kind of funny here was, this is somebody defending the film and probably speaking to us, says, I thought the film was excellent. People always moan and slag films off when they either don't make films themselves, not knowing how hard it is to make a film. I hate that argument, by the way.
Yeah, that's nobody intends to make a bad film, but they happen. And more bad films happen than good films. It's commendable that everybody did what they did, but we can criticize this because I've directed 2 short films, one that won an award. I feel like I am qualified to call this a bad movie, to whoever that IMDb reviewer was.
The hardest part about a film, I think, is getting the money behind it. Because I think, honestly, if us three were given $6 million, a $6 million budget to make any kind of film we want, I'm not saying it'd be the best film of the year, but I guarantee you it would be better than Backtrace.
Backtrace wasn't made to be a good movie. It was made to cost $6 million and get a $500,000 return. I mean, and whatever they sold it to streaming for. I mean,
it's streaming, right? You're right. You're absolutely right. It's the streaming rights. They sold it to Netflix here in Canada. They sold it to Hulu. They sold it. So, of course, it makes
even
money.
If they made $2 million, all said and done, after the theatrical run and whatever licensing they got, that's $2 million on a $6 million investment. Most people would take that, right?
Of course. It probably made its money back. And just like you said, getting to somebody like Sly coming in, had somebody else starred in that same role that Sly was in, do you think we'd be talking about Backtrace ever in our life as a movie? No. So there you go.
No, because I've scrolled past all those Bruce Willis movies you're talking about.
yeah.
I've scrolled past every one of them.
Well, talking about the cast a little bit, it's also this same cast of like greasy characters. They're all in this guy's movies. He uses the same cast for all of his movies. He's kind of like the Rob Zombie of straight to video action films. He uses all the same characters, the same cast of characters for all of his movies.
I thought you were going to say Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, I should have. Yeah. Now this guy's gotten out of prison. They now take him to a house, and they basically say, look, we brought you to this house. We'll get to the house later, but we brought you to this house because we want to inject you with an experimental serum that has been used to help people who have lost their memory to get their memory back.
And it kills 20% of the people, right?
It works on 80%. It works on 80% of the people. Okay, here's the numbers. I think I memorized it. It works on 80% of the people to get back up to 40% of memory, and the 20% of the people that it doesn't work on, it just kills them. So basically, if you don't get 40% of your memory back, the alternative is you die.
This is an LPT enhancer.
A what?
A drug that stimulates the frontal lobe of the brain, which controls memory.
Look, I've been stuck with every truth serum and memory enhancer ever invented.
Not this one.
How do you figure?
Because it just finished clinical trials. Over 80% of the patients who took this regained almost 40% of their memory.
What happened to the other 20%?
They died.
Look, I have no recollection of what happened to me in my past. And I'm not going to let you guys fry my brain trying to figure it out.
There is $20 million in cash hidden out there. And we believe that you know where it's stashed. And we're not the only ones looking for it. So if you want to survive the next couple days, I suggest you start working with us.
Hey, there's an 80% chance this stuff will work.
Yes.
What are the side effects?
Go ahead and tell him.
It's not going to be pleasant. Dizziness, vertigo, possible hallucinations, and those headaches of yours are going to get much, much worse.
Good news is, you remember where you buried the money, and we all prosper.
This doesn't work by itself. We're going to have to expose you to some places from your past.
So you think this is going to release my memories?
It takes about 15 minutes to start working.
Okay.
I'm going to need you to remain incredibly still.
You're gonna want to bite down on this. Trust me.
It has to be injected directly into your spinal. Hold him down. Mac, I'm sorry. This is gonna hurt like hell. Hold him.
Seems like a high risk, low reward there.
Why does it kill you if it doesn't get the memory back? You could argue.
And why is it injected into the spine too? It seems like something that should be intravenous, right? I mean, it's some kind of chemical.
It goes into the spinal cord. The spinal cord.
Yeah.
Ugh. And I hate needles. I admit, when they put the needle in the back of the neck, I was like, I'm not watching. I turned away. I can't watch.
This brings up another thing I wanted to talk about, and this is sort of like the Backtrace $6 million budget checklist. We've got a police station set. We've got a mental hospital set. We've got an abandoned house set. And we've got this meat packing plant. Check. So they've got 4 locations. Boom, build a movie around it.
Ruben just chimed in again. He said, casting was done by Emmett Furla, who engaged with various, quote, investor actors to finance the film.
Oh, okay. The bozo or the bimbo that we saw, she probably put up $100,000.
Investor actress Meta Williams bought her role in the film by playing producers Emmett Furla and invested in the film, quote unquote, boss level, and later
it's like a Kickstarter.
10 minutes gone. Her role had to be mainly cut out due to her inability to act or even show up knowing any of her lines. Actors Modine and Guzman spent hours rehearsing with her to try to teach her acting 101, but the gold digger who had conned a billionaire out of over $800 million had absolutely no skills or talent and was mostly cut from the final film. That sounds a little subjective to be like IMDb.
Well, it sounds like the person that wrote that might be the person that got ripped off.
$800 million.
But can you imagine how frustrating it is for Matthew Modine? I was directed by Stanley Kubrick. Yeah. And now I'm on the set of this movie with this boss level investor.
Oh my god!
Oh, Meta Williams was in another one of the films we put up for the poll. Reach Me. She's in Reach Me as well.
Stallone connection.
Yeah, that is hilarious. I'm just.
Did we figure out what the third movie was too?
What was the third movie we would put up for vote? Come on, mine was this movie.
I picked it and I can't remember it.
That's horrible.
No, I picked Backtrace.
Oh, you did?
No, I picked the third unknown movie.
You picked Reach Me, Ryan.
Okay,
I remember the chat.
Oh, that's weird that we can't remember the third movie.
I can't even find the poll. I tried to look for it. Okay, so at least now it explains that they had to put up with this bad acting because the people paid to be in the movie.
Yeah, it looks like it. What was Sly's donation?
It had to be a favor. There's, deals you make in Hollywood, right? Where you say, I'll get you down the road, or I owe you one or something. When Sly was filming Balboa, he needed that van or something. They gave him that van and they said, down the road, make sure when I call you.
Okay, so they're at the house. The truth serum has been given, the memory serum has been given to Matthew Modine's character. So at the house, we should say we have the nurse, we have the guard, and then we have the prison inmate. All these people have been a part of Matthew Modine's character. His name is McDonald. Prior to him coming to the house, so he goes, "You're not really a nurse. You're not really a security guard at the hospital, and you're not really a prison inmate."
Okay, obviously you guys know who I am. Who are you? You're not a security guard. You're not
crazy.
Are you a nurse?
I was in a former life.
you know, you guys are all working together. He says, yeah, we have 20 million reasons to why we want to work together. So we brought you to this house because we've heard that when you use this memory serum, people need to go to a place where they knew something about or they had a history. You know, right away as a viewer, well, this must be the guy's house. Because he goes to the fireplace mantle and he holds on to it like he's transferring the energy of the fireplace mantle through his hands and into his memory banks. Fragments. Memory. Images. I know this place. And he's doing that. We're like, okay, this is the guy's house. Okay, there's your first clue. This guy used to live here. Obviously, the people that used to live here aren't there anymore. So the three individuals are like, oh, this is exciting. You know, he's getting some of his memory back. We're ready to take him to the next big location, which is where the money was buried. So they figured the two locations was his home. Okay. And now that his memory's coming back, they're going to take him to the cement factory where the money was buried. But before we get there, a cop who's just doing his rounds comes to the house because I guess he's just
private property.
Afternoon, officer.
Afternoon. You got business here? This is private property. Place has already been foreclosed.
You told me the title was clear.
It is.
I'm sorry, sir. I was only out here because the bank had listed it for auction.
You say you're out here looking at buying this property?
Yes, sir. I needed a place to run my horses.
Really? How about you show me some ID?
Yeah.
348, go ahead. Give me a sec. 348, I copy. You can show me around. Folks, I got it clear. Like I said, this is private property. Have the proper documentation if you're going to be here.
Yes, sir.
Doug, you're a police officer, and I do want to ask, is it against the law to not have ID on you?
No.
So why do cops in movies do that? Show me some ID. I don't have any. Like, what would happen? I don't have any ID on me. Sorry.
If you're a person of interest, they would have to verify who you are. If you don't have an ID on you, we could bring you back to the station and fingerprint you and send it to the state police, and they can return, a result.
Okay, so no result comes in, then what?
There's very little we could do at that point.
So why don't they just play it like that? So you know what? You're right. It's, officer's private property. We just we were curious, looking through the house. We heard some crazy story about a mass murder that happened here. Curiosity got the better of us. We're leaving now, sir. And this is all serious. How much grief do you give somebody who's on private property? Just go home, leave, or do you actually?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I would probably check the house to make sure there was no damage, or they weren't squatting or doing drugs in there or something.
Okay.
Ryan, they needed to kill 4 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
It was so tense. Why was Matthew Modine's character freaking out so much because there was a police officer there?
No, I think it was the reaction to the drug.
Because later in the movie, he saw law enforcement come. He goes, "Law enforcement, they're here to kill us." Remember, he said that.
Yeah.
It was weird.
I thought the cop was going to get killed too, Ryan. I thought that movie trope was going to get played.
Why he freaked out about the cops thinking that they're going to kill him is because he struck a deal with the cop, the FBI guy, and the other two guys, Shooter McGavin and the other two guys.
Okay.
And they tried to kill him.
Fragments coming back.
Fragments.
During the shootout at the beginning of the movie, it wasn't a cop that was killing him. The FBI agent, played by Christopher McDonald, he purposely sent people that wasn't him to keep him out of the circle. It was like mob guys were doing the killing. So I guess he could argue all law enforcement is connected to the mob. That's what his brain was. Like, I guess this is a weird throwaway line. It's law enforcement. They're here to kill us. That's what he said. Like, what? Oh, 2020 maybe, but I'm just joking.
A Bullet to the Head, by the way, was the other Stallone movie.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, that was my pick.
And that didn't win? Oh, Craig, you're on.
You're on mute.
My wife's using the blender, so.
Oh.
I can't believe that I didn't vote for Bullet to the Head.
I think people honestly want us to suffer because Bullet to the Head is actually a decent film. It's not a horrible watch. This was a horrible watch. This was like the longest 90 minutes we've done in a long time.
It was an hour and 27 minutes.
I noticed that, and I kept looking. How many times did you look at the time when you were watching this? Honestly,
every 3 minutes.
Yeah, I saw that this was an hour and 27 minutes long. I'm like, this is going to be a quick watch. But remember, I told you guys that I was trying to slog through this to make sure I got it done. And I'm like, God, it's got to be close to over. And there's still like 36 minutes left. I'm like, come on.
I saw that too, because they get to that factory and there's like well over a half hour left. And I'm like, where are they going to go? Like, what? There's nothing left to do.
Well,
how much time is wasted stalking around corners and through buildings?
Oh, so much time in that factory. Let's talk.
I use that skip 10-second button like
yes
100 times.
Okay, so for those who don't know this, I didn't know this until I heard rumors that this was going to happen on Netflix, and it's only on your PC/laptop. If you watch Netflix on your PC or laptop, you have the option to watch your show up to 1.25 or 1.5 second faster. Every scene that was not a Stallone scene, I watched it at 1.5 seconds. And at the Stallone scenes, I actually watched it at 1.25. It got through it that much faster. Because when they're at the cement factory, remember when they're looking for the money? The cops said that they looked through that factory for months. The guys were there for 5 minutes. Nothing here. Nothing over here. They weren't even turning anything over. They weren't looking behind it. They were just looking in the open space. So the cops were there for months at a time. They didn't find anything, but their search happened to be just looking, basically poking their head around the corner. Oh, no bags of money there. Oh, no bags of money. I think the cops would have found a big duffel bag of money in months of search.
Well, like you said, Ryan, they didn't have any kind of high-tech equipment that you can scan with or something.
We should mention that the FBI agent that was there to help with the case was the guy that double-crossed both Stallone's character, of course, the law enforcement, but also double-crossed McDonald's character at the beginning. So that was the inside man, was an FBI agent to get this money, to help. He helped facilitate the bank robbery, blah, blah, blah. Why were these three guys recruited again to rob the bank? What didn't it have something to do with the cement factory, that there was some sort of foreclosure or they were desperate for money? Well, how did get...
Hold on, I got this.
Okay.
It's not going to make any sense, but I got it. Okay. The cement factory took out a $30 million line of credit from that bank.
All right.
And they used their employees' pensions as collateral. The cement factory ended up filing for bankruptcy after taking annual bonuses of $24 million. I guess what they did was they gypped all their employees out of the pensions, took the money from the bank, and kept it instead of helping out their employees or paying their employees.
Very timely. It's like an Enron thing.
I guess it kind of is.
So that now kind of makes sense of how they were able to justify the characters at the end of the film with walking away with the money, because the money was corrupt, or it may as well go to innocent people. Okay, before we get to that, his memory starts coming back. Spoiler alert. Okay, this is the big spoiler for those who have not seen the movie and you think that you might want to still see the movie. This is the Sixth Sense, M. Night Shyamalan spoiler alert. The three people who got him out of the hospital. The nurse is his wife. The two men are his sons.
I was shocked when he said it was his wife.
Yes.
She looked so much younger than him, and she looked way too young to have grown-up children.
But the ages actually matched. The plastic surgery helped her a little bit because she's actually 50. The actress is legitimately, Meadow Williams is 52 at the time of the filming of that movie, and Modine was only 59. So there's only a 7-year difference. That's very, very normal. And the kids, the two actors, the one that played the older boy, he was 31. So that means they had him when they were in their early 20s. That's all. So it's all legit. The ages were legit with the actors and the characters. Other son, Farron, his name Farron. I could not find his age anywhere online, but I would assume he's about the same. Sir Robert, who said he fell asleep, he's in our chat. He fell asleep watching the film. He didn't know about the spoiler. His response was OMG times 3. I think, and I suspect he's being like, oh my G, that's a horrible twist. Yes, it was his family. And so the bad guys come to the cement factory because now the family, McDonald and his family, if they've reconciled, they got their dad back, they're looking for the money. He's on board to find this money with his kids and his wife. And the bad guys come and a shootout ensues, kills the son. So one son is dead, and he grieved a little bit, I guess. There's a little bit of grieving.
So sorry.
I'm so sorry. Move on.
Yeah, it was horrible. And remember when Modine's character told Sly that, like, Sly heard that his son, yeah, I heard about your son.
This money cost me my son's life.
Sorry about that. But I'm sure it'll get you where you want to go.
Yeah, I heard about that. Sorry, that's too bad. It was a very the bad guys come to at the same time as a shootout. They grab the money. So one son has died. Okay, they're getting surrounded by the bad guys.
I don't mean to cut you off, but
No,
I just finally found the poll. And Doug, you picked Zookeeper.
Oh, I did.
Which got 23.8% of the vote.
I wish we watched Zookeeper.
I knew it wasn't Bullet to the Head because I would have voted for that.
Yeah, Bullet to the Head's, like I said, it's a great film. It's really not a bad film at all. Watching that right now after seeing this would actually be a good palate cleanser. Okay, so there's a line that just killed me, and maybe you guys could help me, or have you guys explain to me and the listeners how this makes sense. So one of their family's been shot and killed already by the bad guys. The bad guys are looking for the money that the good bad guys have found, McDonald family. They say, grab the money. I quote, "It's the only thing keeping us alive."
They would have been killed anyway, whether or not they had the money.
The bad guys, they don't even have to look for the money. The money's been recovered by the McDonalds, okay? Mm-hmm. Or McDonald and his wife and surviving son. They actually have the money, but the money was left behind somewhere, and the son called out of or I think it might have been the wife. She said, grab the money. It's the only thing keeping us alive. I want to say, other than the dead son, this money hasn't kept anybody alive. In fact, it's the opposite. It's the only thing killing you guys. If you just threw the money at them and ran away, you'd probably get away. They'd be grabbing the money, and in fact, if you dump the money out, like they do in movies, dump it out on the ground, the bad guys would have chased after the money while you ran away.
Not if they can implicate the feds. I don't know if you even touched upon this, Ryan, but the bad guys in this movie are the feds.
Are they just straight up federal agents?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The two guys in the beginning, they were all part of the same squad. The two guys in the beginning.
Okay.
The other guy that was with him, the guy with the tight black shirt, and the khakis and the rifle, he was with Shooter McGavin at the police station. I'm spitballing here. I don't know if they were, but they all seemed like they were. They rolled in black Suburbans. It just seemed like a federal agent thing.
I thought it was the FBI guy in charge, just having some hired help, like thugs.
No, I thought they were all feds. Either way.
Craig, tiebreaker. What were they?
The feds were the bad guys.
Yeah, I'm with Doug.
Okay.
All right. But but we're led to believe.
Matter. I just don't care. It's irrelevant. Sure, they were federal agents. Okay.
But the thing is, we're led to believe for most of the movie that right from the beginning that Matthew Modine is the bad guy, and it turns out he was just a good guy trying to help his family. So he steals $20 million.
He was the Les Mis character. He stole a loaf of bread for his family. He took money from the bad guys to take care of his family. He kept saying, nobody was supposed to get killed. Nobody was supposed to get hurt. We're taking money from a bad company who screwed us over. So he's not a bad person. What he did was wrong. You still can't take money, even if it was fraudulent money. You're a police officer, right? You can't take money from evidence. Even though it's criminal money, you're still not allowed to take it.
Right.
He's not a murderer, or conspiracy to commit murder. He's just a robber. Made a bad decision at a desperate time. He's going to lose his money, and he saw a crime of opportunity, took it, and it went wrong for him. So Stallone's character finally leaves the station. But do we want to talk about what they had set up on the board for this 7-year crime that they're trying to figure out? Was that?
Well, it's like the classic pyramid of corruption.
Well, they had
with the yarn connecting points.
Yeah.
Key points.
I think it's supposed to show that Sly's character is a little bit old school. He doesn't have a computer graph. It's all it's that visual textile layout of the pictures and the. Do they do that in cop stations? Still detective work?
No. There are no big boards.
There's like that software now, like Detective.
Yeah, or there's a file. Like a file that you compile your notes.
You don't walk into the office and say, "Hey, I'm going to add something to that board." You bring in a picture. And
I will say this is an effective tool for if you remember the TV show The Wire, they had the big.
Yes, I love that.
How they broke down the whole enterprise. visually it works. I mean, in this movie it was worthless, but
okay, well, did you look at the board? It was it was horrible. It was like a 6-year-old put it together. None of it made sense. The wires going everywhere, the pictures were scattered. It was a horrible layout to begin with.
For a crime like this, where there's so few people involved, you don't need all that shit. Yeah, in The Wire, there's a real criminal enterprise with a lot of players that they have to kind of put together. So yeah, that's more of a puzzle than a 3-person operation.
Sly's whole acting role for that was standing in front of that board.
Let's have a little fun here, because that's what we're here for, right? What if Sly's character, that police station, used to be an Orange Julius, and it became a police station and they couldn't fire him? So then he's just sitting at the board doing what he thinks detectives do.
Oh, man. Did you notice his hair?
Well, yeah. Straight hairline, like it's...
Like they drew it on.
Okay, and look, he's 72. Bless his heart. He's a strong. I love Sly. Look, but what I love about Clint Eastwood, this is an example. What I love about Clint, he ages. Like, I'm an old man, and I'm just old. I'm 85. Whatever his movies are, you never look at Clint and says, I think he's trying to hide his age. No, he looked old since the spaghetti westerns. Like, he's always just been a very rugged, older looking person. There's no shame that I think with Sly. I know he never listens to our show, and I'm not trying to shite on him, but it's just there's a part of me is like it's okay to be old.
But then he couldn't have been in this movie, and that gets back to the problem.
Yeah.
After Creed, he had an opportunity to pivot and get that Clint Eastwood career, but for whatever reason, vanity, ego, I don't know, he doesn't want to go that direction. I will say this: through most of the '80s, Sly had a fierce battle with his brother, a hair battle that Sly soundly won. But you know what? Frank has won the war. Because Frank's hair in 2020, it looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this movie was the first time I've noticed his plugs were pretty prominent.
It's that ridiculous, like it's like a straight hairline, like it doesn't.
Like it's tattooed on.
Yeah, the verdict is in. It's true. I've always kind of wanted to believe, but this was the dye job was strong in this one, and the plugs in the back. There's a couple of parts where you turn around. It's just you could see.
Like we're talking about the Force or something.
I don't want to turn this into a podcast where we bash Sly's.
We're not bash. Look, okay. Here's the thing: the guy's worth $500 million. He's adored and loved by many, me included. But what makes this film hard to watch, I hate to say it, is the fact that he's 72 and he's trying to play a role where somebody at 65 is forced retired. The events at the beginning of the movie took place 7 years later, so there's no way around that we can guess he shouldn't be in this film. Like, there's no reason why Sly should be in the film.
Well, you know what? If he gave a shit, if anybody gave a shit, they could have had 7 years ago. Sly was retiring. It's his last day on the job or whatever. He picks up this case. Then he retires. He's got no choice. And then he gets called, not in an official capacity, but he gets visited. He's retired. Hey, this guy broke out of the psych ward or whatever. Can you give us some insight onto how? And then he's working as like a civilian liaison.
Or if he like worked the case when it initially happened. So you worked this case. What can you tell us about the initial robbery?
And that young cop that worked with him, he's now the head detective, right? He says, "Look, you knew the most about this case. It's reopened because the guy got out of, do you mind just if I bend your ear a little bit?" And then the same thing happens. Hey, just so you know, I'm at the warehouse like you thought. You were right all along. Your gut was correct, but nobody's listening to me at the precinct. I'm going there now. Then he hears the gunshots. He grabs his weapon from his house and goes to the cement factory and takes care of business.
I thought the cleverest writing point in this movie was when the other cop got shot in his vest, by the way, which would have saved his life, wouldn't have killed him. Anyhow,
none of those vests worked. They all got killed with vests on.
Yeah, exactly. But he drops his phone and Sly can still
the best phone ever.
Yeah, it says Sykes real bigger.
He hears everything.
Yeah.
Since we were talking about Clint Eastwood, if you guys remember the Dirty Harry series, the last entry in the Dirty Harry series was 1988, the Deadpool. And that movie is basically about Dirty Harry being an old man. Do you want to guess how old Dirty Harry was?
Okay, give me a second.
88?
How old Clint Eastwood was an actor as an actor? Yeah. Well, I know he's 80. Let's say he's 85 now. So that's 32. So he's like 54, 53.
He was 58.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And they're playing him up as, Dirty Harry. Oh, I'm too old for this shit. And,
Yeah, he's 58 years old. He's close to retirement. Sure, that makes sense. Yeah, he played his age.
It's just funny.
So I'm not making fun of somebody's appearance in the way that I am a little bit, but part of me, I'm doing it because it doesn't fit the movie.
In all fairness, Al Pacino's doing this shit too.
Yeah, fair.
Mm-hmm.
There's a handful of Al Pacino movies on streaming services where he's doing his Heat role 25 years later. And again, he's got to be a good 5 or 6 years older than Sly.
Yeah.
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 I also don't want to sound like, I'm berating you guys for making fun of Sly's appearance because, like, the whole movie, I was looking at him too, going, "What the?" And his eyebrows, they're so
they're painted on.
pointy,
They're painted on.
He looks surprised all the time because they're so high.
Yeah.
So,
And again, that's the frustrating thing is he's had 2 opportunities at least to pivot in his career, and he didn't. In his later career, let's say. No, 3. Starting with Copland. Balboa, and then Creed. I guess he just likes making these kinds of movies.
But why?
Yeah.
Why does he like it? We still have to do Escape Plan 2 and 3. This is gonna be rough. Because apparently Escape Plan 2, according to IMDb, its rating is about the same as this. So fans and critics gave it about the same fresh rating.
Well, Sly said Escape Plan 2, Hades, or the Extractors. I don't remember which. I think it's Hades.
Hades is number 2.
He said that's the worst movie he's ever made.
Did he watch Backtrace?
Wow.
I've also heard that he's barely in Hades as well. Like,
sure.
We have to figure out how to do these. If we're going to do everything that Sly's ever been in, and he has bit parts in some of these films, we have to figure out how we're going to cover because it's a Sly podcast, not a Matthew Modine podcast or a David Bautista podcast.
It's a Metal Williams podcast.
The Shooter McGavin podcast.
Well, I hear you, but part of me's kind of like, it's just fun to talk. I don't care. People can listen
He's
to
on the poster for this one. I mean, if it's implied that he's the star of the movie, I think it's fair. I don't think we need to sit down and do like a full review of Taxi 3 or whatever that French movie he had a cameo in.
It's on YouTube as well, his cameo scene. It literally is 3 minutes, yeah. French movie.
Yeah, it's not the Queen Latifah, Jimmy Fallon movie.
Oh, that's what I figured.
So let's just say, yes, Sly's character comes, he saves the day, shoots all the bad guys. He gets every bad. I think minus maybe 1 or 2, but he kills all the bad guys.
And he had way more shots fired than probably bullets he was carrying.
You think?
He unloaded multiple times.
Yeah, it was.
Rounds go quick when you're rapid firing. They go quickly.
And again, this is the frustrating thing about having a Sylvester Stallone on your set. Sylvester Stallone that doesn't care because the action in this movie, it didn't matter. There was no logical layout to it. You had no sense of proximity. It was just gun shooting for the sake of gun shooting. And that's the frustrating thing about watching this movie is Stallone was there. For whatever reason, he didn't care enough to say, you know what, maybe you put a camera there, we do this kind of blocking, and then boom, in the editing room, we've got a great action sequence.
The one thing about the shooting scenes that I think were realistic was a lot of missed shots. He wasn't shooting a chain holding up a sign in the dark from 30 yards away.
Shout out to Tango and Cash. That was sorry, don't tell me
Stop
that was
My Mama
Stop on My Mama
Shoot,
Shoot. Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, a lot of rounds fired and a lot of shots missed.
I thought Tango and Cash too, but there's an impossible shot in that movie.
Stop or My Mom Shoot.
Stop or My Mom Shoot. Sucked.
I would rather watch that again. I mean, watch that movie again, but I went downstairs and my wife was like, "Hey, let's watch Backtrace."
Get out. Pack your shit and leave.
I know this sounds cliche, but can somebody shoot me in the head so I forget this film?
You want amnesia?
And then, how lazy of an ending is this?
Oh, we're good. That's the killer. Okay, so there's a before you get to it, let's just say what happens.
Oh, hold on. I'll take care of it.
Before we get to it though. So
no, but that's what he says. I'll take care of it.
Okay, no, just wait. We got to set up for those who aren't watching this film. So all the bad guys have been killed. The surviving.
Stallone's been hearing all of this the whole time on the cell phone that's been sitting on the ground.
Say again, last. What do you say?
Stallone's been hearing all of this while he's driving. He's heard conversations.
Right. But I'm saying he arrives and he shoots all the bad guys. Right. So he shoots all the bad guys. He knows that the FBI agent's corrupt. He's now dead. There's dead bodies everywhere. He's still a detective. Right? You know, he still has a paperwork to fill out or something.
And a 7-year open case.
7-year open case. He's got the dead brother, the dead bad guys. Is his partner dead?
Yeah.
So his partner's dead.
Well, yeah, he comes face to face with Mac for the first time, who's got his wife, one son, and his other son died. Sylvester Stallone tells him, like, just take the money and go. You earned it.
You paid your debt.
Yeah, and and Modine says, "What about my dead son? I'll take care of it."
There you go. It's all yours.
I heard the whole thing. 7 years you served. Good enough. We'll call that time served.
This money cost me my son's life.
Sorry about that. But I'm sure it'll get you where you want to go.
Where could I possibly go? I wouldn't be spending the rest of my life looking over my shoulder.
I'll take care of it.
And my son?
Take care of that too.
Thank you, Detective.
He also said, I don't want to go the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. I'll take care of it. How the hell are you going to take care of that?
We don't need to make any more movie.
I think right now, if we were to come up with a better ending, a better even dialogue, I'm sure we could. I don't want to waste too much of our time, but it's kind of like you could almost have it where Sly takes some of the money. So, give me $5 million, I'll keep your mouth shut. Like, I'm going to give you $20 million. You still committed a crime. Why is he off the hook completely? He's not an innocent person.
He's got 7-year case and a bloodbath that he's got to explain now when the feds are going to show up, right? I mean, there's dead federal agents.
Yeah, so Detective Sykes, what happened here? Well, I had a shootout. They got away with the money. My partner's dead. That's their dead son. All right, call a medic. I'm going home. I took care of it.
I took care of it.
Why did he feel this weird closeness to this poor victim, Matthew Modine?
Because the movie was over. That's the only explanation that makes sense.
And they have that arbitrary shot of him walking slowly to his car, Stallone.
That ending blew my friggin' mind.
It was one of the worst endings I've ever. It's the worst ending of any Stallone film.
We have to make sure that this movie comes in under an hour and 30 minutes. We're too close. We'll just end it by saying I'll take care of it. The end.
I would assume Party Kitty and Suds has better happy endings than this one.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
There probably should have been some recording feature on that cell phone that implicates Shooter McGavin. Shooter McGavin doesn't die. He gets arrested. And during all the melee there, Modine slips away with the money.
How does somebody mourn the son's dead, but his memory still fragments? Like, how much...
It's just
I'm sorry. It is really just a stranger. And there's a scene where he hugs his surviving son.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't even kiss his wife or anything. The first thing I guarantee you, the first thing they're doing on that $20 million, they're going to buy a yacht and make some love on that yacht. Meadow Williams is not a bad looking woman. She's got she's a good looking woman for 52.
Yeah, and was it permanent memory restoration?
Good point. It didn't say. It just said it restored 40% of their memory. No, it's not permanent because they said they had like it took 15 minutes to kick in. Okay, sure, permanent.
Does it really matter?
Backtrace.
What a pile of shit.
I remember when Doug said he's gonna watch it today. He's like, I gotta get through this. I didn't want to say anything. I'm like, I said once he starts it, he's gonna regret going through this. It's a horror. I'm sorry. There's actually nothing good about this film. There's no. This is a 1 out of 10 or whatever the lowest ranking. And I don't do this to be funny, to be glib, to be clever. Lords of Flatbush, I'd rather watch. Every other movie that we've ever done, I'd rather watch.
Yeah, this solely existed to turn $6 million into $8 million or whatever it was, and there's no artistic effort behind it. Everybody knew that they were there to make a profit. It was like investing in a stock. That's all it is. Everybody that Stallone owes a favor to has cashed in their favor at this point, because we shouldn't have to subject ourselves to watching Sly demean himself like this.
Let's talk a little bit before we close here. I'm just curious what the behind the scenes is like. Sly, you know, I do love him. He's got a great sense of humor, and I understand that he's not an idiot. Like, you see him working on the director's cut of Rocky IV. I know you haven't seen it, but the video footage that he's doing, he's smart about filming. He's smart about what to, you know. I understand he knows the Rocky like George Lucas knows Star Wars. Like, that's his creation, right? I get it, but what's his jibber jabber with the crew off camera? Is he having fun with the director? Is he smiling? Is he goofing around? Is he like, "Hey, this is fun, guys"? Like, or is he like rolling his eyes profusely in his trailer? Like, "What am I doing? This is embarrassing."
On this movie?
Yeah,
I'm sure on this movie he didn't say 4 words to people when the camera wasn't rolling.
You really think it was literally just in and out? Did he talk shop with Modine or Christopher McDonald? Do you know what I mean by that? Like,
I think everybody's embarrassed, right? If you're Shooter McGavin and you're on the set of this movie, you're embarrassed to be there, right?
I think any seasoned actor would feel that way.
So you almost don't talk about it, because then it sort of puts a spotlight on how foolish everybody that's there that's a professional is being.
Well, you're taking seasoned, established actors and you're having them work with people who bought their roles.
Boss level.
Boss level.
You know what? I've never heard of that before. I've never heard of that. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't. So this is like a Kickstarter. So they paid to be in the movie. So Meta Williams, bless her heart, she paid for us to talk about her.
After stealing the money from somebody, at least that's what.
Did she steal $800 million?
She gold dug, apparently, according to this.
That's amazing.
She was a gold digger.
I kind of wish I Googled more about her, because that is.
I'm glad I didn't, because that was like one of the highlights of the episode for me, was learning that.
Well, your brother kind of spelled it out too on Ruben in the chat. Why don't you give love to the to Sir Robert? He checked in a lot.
Thank you, Robert. Robert, thanks for joining us. Gerald Kessler's wife, Meta Williams, wins legal victory in battle over $800 million fortune. She's worth $800 million.
Can you imagine?
More than Sly, more than Sylvester Stallone.
Can you imagine weaseling your way into $800 million and being like, I want to co-star in shitty movies?
What's it going to cost me?
Yeah, why not just disappear?
This is incredible. Check this out, guys. Meta Williams, 49, so this was 3 years before the film was made, was left $800 million by vitamin tycoon husband Gerald Kessler after his death last March, so March of 2019. Judge has now thrown out his family's attempt to overturn his final wishes after they claim Williams manipulated him into changing his will. She got $800 million. She's a bored multi-millionaire. So I have $800 million to burn. I want to be in a movie. So she pays to play. She just says, here's $100,000 to help finance your movie and put me in a bit part.
You think it's a tax write-off type thing as well? Can she write off the loss, spending whatever she spent to be in this movie? Can her accountant be like, it's a business expense?
I have no idea.
Maybe it's like a tax haven or something?
This is more like a gift to a charity.
Yeah, she's worth more than Sly. That's hilarious.
Almost double.
It just goes to show you what blonde hair and boobs will do. They marry that rich tycoon, he dies, and they get the money. It's happened so much in this world.
Can you imagine that poor family?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
For that piece of the pie?
They got about $60 million, it says.
It's a lot less than $800 million.
Yeah. I mean, I could live on $60 million, but...
All right.
Well, that was for the whole family, right? They had to split it?
Yeah, it's for all the kids, so who knows?
Awful. Well, who knows? Maybe his kids were pieces of garbage, too.
Yeah, who knows? So anyways, there you go, guys. That is Backtrace. We've spent about an hour and a half on it, ish. We talked about Rocky IV, which was probably the highlight of this podcast. So if you made through this whole podcast, thank you, Sir Rob and others who were in the chat. There was a few of you. Yeah, Miguel chimed in, and there's a few of you that were listening. Ruben, my brother Ruben, came in.
Yeah.
I had no idea he was going to pop in. That was a nice virtual chat for those who listen to the show and know Ruben as my co-host on the Going the Distance podcast. We miss Ruben. We love and miss him. But I don't think he's ever coming back. I don't think he's ever coming back to the show. The invitation's open. Everyone knows that if Ruben decides to come back, the other co-host get curbed. So,
later.
No, not quite like that. I think at the very least it'd be like he'd come on in every now and then. But
they join Tico in the junk heap.
Let's just do final plugs here of your shows and feeds. And
all right. Well, actually, we've talked about Slycast, and since you mentioned it during the episode, Ryan, I would like to plug my monthly podcast. The first Friday of every month, I put out a brand new episode of Conversations at Jackrabbit Slim's, which is a podcast devoted exclusively to the movie Pulp Fiction. Every episode, I sit down with another fan of that movie, and we talk for about 25 or 30 minutes about whatever we end up talking about. So it's not a breakdown of the movie. It's not an analysis of the movie. It is what it is.
Sort of like this show.
And I've been having a lot of fun doing it.
Movies. I don't know what we talk about. I don't know why. Do we ever? I think we do a real terrible job. Every time we do this show, I feel like it's a terrible. I feel like I listen to other movie review podcasts. Like, man, they know how to do that. Why? I don't know, but people seem to still listen. But it's just
people have. A lot of shows have a format.
Oh, is that what we need?
Like the best and worst of the movie, and we just kind of just rip right through. And
but to be fair, guys, the reviews that we do get often say this: that it's about it feels like there was a bunch of guys talking about a movie, like sitting around having some beers. That it's not. Mm-hmm. It's a discussion. We don't have. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anyways, but I just hope our listeners just know we love talking about the movie. But yeah, we're not. If you want to know everything about the movie, go to Wikipedia. We're just saying how we feel about it.
Yeah. So, again, I look forward to sitting down with you, Ryan, and you, Doug, individually for the show. And you both have open invitations. But it's Conversations at Jackrabbit Slim's, first Friday of every month. If you just Google Conversations at Jackrabbit Slim's, you'll find it. If you search it in your whatever your favorite podcatcher is, or if you check out my my Twitter at Mr. Craig Cohen, you can find the link there as well.
And I enjoy the show.
Oh, thank you. I've been having a lot of fun doing it. It's a show I've wanted to do for a long time, and the pandemic has made it possible. I've done a lot during this pandemic. I compiled and edited and released a 2-hour Ramones fan film. Where it's like a Ramones video scrapbook, which is a ton of fun. That's on my Vimeo page. If you go to my Twitter, I have a link page that links to everything I talk about. I started the Pulp Fiction podcast, which is something I wanted to do. In July, I wrote and recorded an instrumental concept album. So being out of work, it gives you a lot of time to do all the shit you've wanted to do. So I have no idea when I'm going back to work. So
all right. I look forward to going on that show. Actually, I do have stuff to say about Pulp Fiction that I'll save for the show.
Whenever you want, Ryan. I'm not doing anything now.
Roger that.
Yeah. Likewise, I want to get it fresh in the mind. I haven't seen it in a few years, so I want to watch it.
Well, I have 2 episodes in the bank right now, so I have October and November.
Okay.
So
okay. I'll try to get on for December then. Doug?
I'm one of the hosts of Rocky Minute. As I said before, we go through each of the Rocky movies and analyze 1 minute of movie film at a time. We're spamming the feed as we speak with our past episodes. We want to catch up and maybe get a few new listeners since we joined the network.
I think you are. You must be. They're being downloaded, so I don't know. Someone's listening that hasn't heard it before. I know people are listening that haven't heard it before. I know that for a fact.
All right. Well, that's excellent. That's all I can ask for. It's been like 2 weeks since I put a block up because all my files disappeared into the cloud somewhere, and I had to. I don't know. I spent the last couple of days grabbing them back and and bringing them down into my desktop. So I got to get back to releasing. But you can find us right here with the with these two fellas and in this collaboration we got going on at the Sylvester Stallone Fan Podcast Network.
All right, and my feed, the Going the Distance, the Rocky Series and Creed podcast, is also on that same feed. It's great having it on with all you guys. Craig, I want you to come on the Worst of the Best podcast. That's my other podcast. Check out Doug, who's already guested on my Worst of the Best podcast. Both episodes will already be out when this gets released. We broke down Anthrax, so there you go.
I was really surprised at the feedback that you've gotten on that so far.
That's been great. Yeah.
People seem to like that one.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, well, Doug, you did all the work.
No, I didn't. Are you kidding me?
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for watching and chatting, and we'll do this again next month. Who knows what dumpster fire that will be, but we are fans of Stallone. This was a bit of a dumpster fire, and we treated it accordingly. So
yeah, we got to be honest.
Yeah. And all right, guys, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Later.